This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Our guests are two women who reported that they were raped to their universities, and we're talking about their response. Lena Sklove is currently on medical leave from Brown University, where she reported she was raped and strangled by a fellow student in August of 2013. The student she accused received what amounted to a one-semester suspension, but has since decided not to return to Brown. Following nationwide uproar over the case, Lena Sklove actually had a news conference on campus when she was dissatisfied about Brown University's response. We're also joined by Wagatwe Wanjuki, organizer with the Know Your Nine campaign, a contributor at Feministing. She filed a complaint at Tufts University in 2008 after 2 years of rape and abuse by an ex-partner who was also a Tufts student. Can you explain, Wagatwe, what happened to you?
Sure. So I was in a relationship with a student on campus, and after enduring 2 years of abuse and multiple instances of sexual assault, I realized that what was happening was wrong, and I really wanted to have some consequences for what happened to me. So what I did was that I filed a complaint with Tufts University. It took a couple months. I was meeting with deans and with judicial affairs officer, and just to talk about the process. So I finally handed in my complaint, and they said that they weren't going to go forward with anything. So I explained 2 years worth of what had happened to me, and they decided that I couldn't use the Tufts system to get any form of justice.
Why?
They said that some things were outside this 1 year statute of limitations. However, they had an exception where they thought that they will allow students to file a complaint if they believe that the student is a threat to the larger campus. We all know that most rapists are repeat offenders, so if you are able to commit rape and physical abuse, you're clearly a threat to students. However, despite giving me an extension verbally, they decided not to do it when I actually filed the complaint.
How did you find out that they would not move forward on your case?
I waited, and the semester ended, and I realized I guess they weren't going to do it.
And how did this affect you at Tufts?
It affected me in so many ways. Abusive relationship was already so very isolating, so I had lost many friends, and then I was on leave, so a lot of my friends graduated, and then coming back to a school where the administration didn't care about what happened to me was very hard, and my academic performance declined.
And so
I met another student in a class. She actually had a similar experience. She actually was able to go through the adjudication process, and they found it was a very terrible experience, and they ended up not punishing her assailant. So we started a movement to change Tufts sexual assault policy. It was only 2 sentences and a list of phone numbers at the time, essentially saying, we think rape is bad, we will help you, call these numbers if you're raped. Not comprehensive whatsoever. So when we started speaking up, and I started speaking up about my own experience, they actually ended up expelling me.
What do you mean, speaking about your own experience? What did you say?
I talked about how the administration did nothing to address my rape. They didn't support me in any way, shape, or form. They refused to accommodate me academically. They refused to give any justice. They refused to acknowledge that I endured violence at the hands of another student, and they refused to acknowledge that they were more comfortable with letting a rapist graduate with a degree from their institution than to help me.
I want to turn to recent developments at Tufts University. On Monday, the Department of Education, that's the federal department, the U.S. Department of Education, said it, quote, may move to initiate proceedings to terminate federal funding to the school for failing to comply with Title IX. That's the law that requires schools to respond promptly and effectively to sexual violence and harassment. The DOE found Tufts failed to employ a Title IX coordinator for 2 academic years and, quote, allowed for the continuation of a hostile environment for a student who identified as a survivor. Tufts signed an agreement April 17th to address the compliance issues with dozens of changes, but about a week later, Tufts backed out of the agreement after the DOE said Tufts' current policies were violating Title IX. The university responded in a statement that, quote, we believe the department's recently announced finding has no basis in law, and we've requested to speak with OCR's Washington office to discuss this unexpected and troubling announcement. Wagatwe Wanjuki, can you respond to this, that Tufts is in violation of Title IX?
This is something that survivors have known for a long time on this campus, and it shows how out of touch the administration is. I think they've been able to get away with it for so long, they think it can continue. But we have new people at the Department of Education, and it's not going to continue any longer. I actually know a current survivor and student at Tufts, and the same people who mishandled my case, they also mishandled his. So there's a systemic problem of failing to support survivors at Tufts University.
You were ultimately expelled from Tufts?
Yes. My academic performance was not great because I was at a school that did not care that I was raped, and I was recovering from the trauma, and they decided to expel me even though my GPA was still high enough for me to graduate. I had a year left, and when I appealed the decision, the person deciding my case was actually the academic advisor of my assailant. So needless to say that he denied my appeal. They said I cited Title IX in my appeal, and they said, well, we looked up at the law and we made sure we have no obligation to help you. Good luck at home.
How did it feel to be one of those people who was standing with Vice President Joe Biden this week, announcing he was talking about what the White House is recommending for colleges to do?
It was an amazing experience to be so alone at Tufts and feel like no one is supporting me, to having the administration acknowledge a very serious issue, something that's very near and dear to me, as something that all colleges need to address. So I'm really fortunate for the opportunity. I'm really fortunate that we've been able to meet with senior staff who met with Know Your Nine and took our concerns very seriously.
Know Your Nine is?
Know Your Nine is an organization made to educate students about their rights under Title IX. I am specifically a part of the Ed Act Now campaign, and we launched last summer. We had a rally in front of the Department of Education. We also had a petition asking for better enforcement of Title IX, because knowing about your rights under Title IX is useless unless it's enforced properly. And we had a petition. We have about 170,000 signatures for it right now. So it just shows that students are willing to fight back, and the administration's listening, even if specific school administrators are not.